In a recent court case, the Arizona Federal District Court ruled that contacting homeowners to make offers to buy properties does not violate the Telephone Consumer Protection Act, or TCPA laws, because we're not offering to sell services, we're offering to buy properties. Now, this is a huge win for the wholesale real estate industry, but does this mean that you're completely out of the woods and have nothing to worry about? Not exactly, so watch this entire video coming up. In case you didn't know, the TCPA is a federal law that dictates how businesses can and can't communicate with consumers through calls and texts, including robocalls, auto dialers, and pre-recorded messages. And the penalties for violating the TCPA are no joke, up to $1,500 per call or message, and you could be personally liable. Now, in an effort to give consumers more control over who can contact them and who can't, the TCPA law was recently updated and went into effect at the beginning of 2025. Since then, the litigators have been having a heyday. Lawsuits under the TCPA have skyrocketed, up 40%, and the settlements are massive. The average case settles for $6.6 million, with some hitting the 8- and 9-figure range. Now, for most wholesalers, the risk was too high, and many discontinued calling and texting sellers. So, what were these new requirements? Let's briefly review each one. First, you must acquire written specific consent to contact each person, and your business must be named. Second, the consumer can revoke consent by text, email, or even verbally. Once a consumer opts out, you must stop contacting him or her within 10 business days. Third, no auto dialers or ringless voicemail unless the consumer gave explicit written consent. Fourth, you can only call and text between 8 a.m. and 9 p.m. in the recipient's time zone. And fifth, you can't call someone on the do not call or DNC list unless you have a prior business relationship or a specific opt-in. Now, on to the good news. In a recent Arizona Federal District Court case, a seller alleged that wholesaler Fast Easy Offer LLC placed unsolicited calls attempting to purchase her property. Now, the suit claimed that these calls violated the TCPA. The judge examined whether these calls qualified as telephone solicitations. Now, that was the key question. Does calling to buy property equal a telephone solicitation? And therein lies the crux. Solicitation implies encouraging someone to spend money by offering products or services for sale, but the defendants were offering to pay money to purchase a property. So, under a literal and contextual reading, the court ruled that it was not a TCPA solicitation and therefore it was not in violation. This ruling signals a huge shift to investor calls to buy houses. Now, before you hammer the phones, this new court ruling doesn't mean that you're totally in the clear. While this court case is a huge win for wholesalers, keep in mind the Arizona Federal District Court is not required to follow other district courts. It only has to follow decisions of the appellate court that they report to and the Supreme Court. There have been other cases in Texas and Missouri that ruled that cold calling sellers does in fact violate the TCPA. So we could see other court cases take a different position. Now, hopefully this Arizona case will reduce the crazy litigators, but it doesn't mean you couldn't still get sued and have to defend yourself in court. So how do you keep your nose clean and keep the ambulance chasers away? First, you have to be crystal clear you are offering to buy, not offering any kind of services. By the way, guess what this means? The TCPA laws still apply to real estate agents. Why? Because they're selling a service, not offering to buy. So suck it, agents and the National Association of Realtors. That's what you get for always gunning for wholesalers. Nanner, we can cold call and you can't. Okay, a few more things. Don't get lazy. Documentation is critical. Log every call, follow specific scripts, and keep track of dates and times. If you get accused by a litigator, be ready to prove your intent of the call was to buy real estate, not sell services. And you still should avoid using auto dialers or pre-recorded messages. You're still bound by TCPA around those technologies. And don't forget, if you're texting, the 10-digit long code or 10 DLC still applies. If you're not compliant, you're going to get blocked. The 10 DLC refers to standard 10-digit phone numbers used for business text messaging in the US. It's a system that allows businesses to send SMS messages using their existing local phone numbers, but with enhanced features and regulations to combat spam and improve deliverability. Businesses must register their 10 DLC numbers and campaigns with the campaign registry, TCR, in order to comply with the carrier guidelines and also the TCPA. But this means you can tell the do not call list to screw off. Get back on the phones and make those calls. Now, if you're new to cold calling and you're excited to get ramped up, let me share with you the fastest way to get going. The first thing you need to do is acquire a list of distressed property owners. And the best place to get that list is Propwire. Propwire has over 157 million records nationwide, including pre-foreclosures, probates, absentee owners, tired landlords, bank properties, vacant houses, and several other lead types. But what's mind-blowing is Propwire lets you search and download as many leads as you want for free. That's right, no monthly subscription and no additional data upsells. And it's super easy to use. You literally choose your market, choose your lead type, and then search and download. Just go to joinpropwire.com to get started. Step 2 is to skip trace the list to get the seller's phone numbers, which you can do right in Propwire with one click. It even has bulk packages so you can save a ton of money. Just go to propwiregold.com to learn more. After acquiring a list and skip tracing it, now you're ready to text and cold call. For mass texting, some best practices include not sending too many texts or too frequently to the same list. Also, make sure you provide an easy and clear way for recipients to opt out of receiving future texts. Make sure your text messages are relevant, valuable, and not misleading. For example, state the seller's name and your name. Keep the text under 160 characters. Rotate through 5 to 10 different versions. Be ready to have a conversation and always end with a question. Here's a possible text script to give you an idea. Hi, Jim. This is Jerry Norton. I'm interested in purchasing 123 Main Street. Then ask one or two of the following questions. Are you the owner? Are you interested in selling? Are you looking to sell? Would you be interested in a cash offer? Want to sell your house fast for cash? Finally, keep in mind, some mobile carriers have filters that automatically block or flag mass text messages as spam. Now, this can result in a lower delivery rate and a lower response rate. Because of some of these challenges with mass texting, we started sending texts manually one at a time before cold calling. The reason is if you text first, then once you call, the seller's ID will now recognize you instead of identifying your number as a possible spam call. This has greatly increased our response rates. Here's a strategy we use. Start by sending a text that simply says the seller's name with a question mark. So, Dave. Now, typically the seller will respond with, who's this? Then respond, hi, Dave, this is Jerry. I'm interested in purchasing 123 Main Street. Are you the owner? Or any other question. If interested, set an appointment to discuss further. Now, keep in mind, you don't have to do all of this yourself. You can get a virtual assistant to do all of this. And what I found is a competent VA can do about 100 texts an hour. That means if you did 500 a day, that's about 15,000 texts a month, and it might only cost you $500 in VA services. So if you're looking for a good VA service, I'll put a company I recommend in the description below for you. Next, let's talk about cold calling. You could personally cold call your Propwire list, but if you can afford it, it's a much better use of time and resources to hire a cold calling agency to do it for you. Now, I recommend and use an agency called Run It Remote. Let Run It Remote's trained and qualified overseas callers do it for you. That way, you're only spending your precious time talking to pre-vetted, actual motivated sellers that want to sell their property. Now, I'll put a link in the description to get a special limited time discount on your first caller. Now, one final tip about texting and cold calling, and that's to make sure that your follow-up is part of your marketing strategy. The National Sales Association claims that 80% of sales are made between the 5th and 12th follow-up. To really crush it with text and cold calling, remember the money is in the follow-up. And I recommend you have a dedicated VA routinely follow up on all of your leads. By the way, I'll give you all of my scripts for cold calling, texting, and emailing for free. I'll put the download link in the description below for you. Finally, watch a video where I explain how to create the ultimate stacked seller list to cold call for free using Propwire. I call this my gold list because it's so good. Watch that video now, and I'll see you on the next video.